really enjoyed my Penn experience. I think I really got the value out of it. I did my undergraduate in sociology in the college, and I continued to sub-matriculate to complete my master's in nonprofit leadership. And I think that itself, the fact that you can kind of continue your education, um, was really attractive to me. I didn't actually know that when I was applying, so it was great when I kind of figured out, oh, I think I'm interested in social impact and everything. So with that, like just how it's structured really helped me launch what is now my nonprofit today. So yeah. So starting off with Holt Prize, um, yeah. So basically, I came into Penn not really knowing what I wanted to do, but I was kind of almost like pre-programmed to think that I wanted to go into medicine, that pre-med route, like almost every other Asian American out there. And I guess um, I took the classes, your bio, chem. The classes informed me I was not meant to save lives. I was always really attracted by medicine because of that, and I just felt really lost. But I kind of stumbled upon the Holt Prize Foundation just through your typical on-campus groups. I really found myself super captivated by this idea that you can make a difference in the world and really accelerate that impact through entrepreneurship. And so I mentioned that I studied sociology, and with that, that really gave me a big appreciation for like this understanding the social context, like that root problem. And when you apply that into entrepreneurship, it's like, wow, you can see like lots of lives impacted. And so I had this gut feeling of basically applying to be a campus director for the Holt Prize Foundation my junior year. And um, at that point, I was already involved with them as like a small marketing graphic design person the year before. But my junior year, the theme of that year of the Holt Prize Foundation was how can we restore the rights and dignities of like 10 million refugees by 2023. And it's funny that I still remember that. But basically, with this, every year they have this grand theme that thousands of students around the world are solving. I wanted to apply that social impact portion of like really understanding the ground roots problem rather than focusing on like this is how you build the business model and everything. And I brought in like refugees from Philly, which actually turns out to be one of the largest refugee populations in the country. Who even knew, right? But through this whole process of teaching students here that um, got really inspired. Um, like had my pitch competition, big success. We sent a few teams to go travel and got them funding from the school on a national level, and that got me to be one of the top 20 campus directors that they had in that year. So I was shocked because I was just like really passionate about it, and I guess with that. Um, I guess with that, they invited me to go to London for this conference in like this whole castle. So they actually filmed Harry Potter in portions of the castle, and it's like you see where they filmed the moving stairs. It doesn't actually move there, but when I was there, I had the opportunity to sit next to the CEO at dinner, um, just randomly, and this idea crossed my mind of like, wow, I really love Holt Prize, and I wonder if it's in any of the other Ivies, because this would be so awesome if there was like something interconnected, because every Ivy League student loves like connecting with people from other Ivies. And so I asked, and he said Penn was like the only one, and with that I kind of was a little ballsy and was like, oh, like, do you think um, it could be neat if there was a program to bring together all the Ivies in some way for the Holt Prize and have some kind of like influencer effect on to get more schools to participate. And so he said, yeah, that could be great. I asked, can I do this for my summer internship? Like, could I work for you? Kind of around those lines. And to my surprise, he said yes. So that was kind of the turning point for me. Um, when someone gives you the opportunity to not only do something but actually lets you do it, that really changes you. So since then, I've always been about empowering others and giving them that opportunity, because I think empowerment is all about giving people opportunities to make something more out of it. So with that, launched Holt Prize Ivy during my summer. That was actually my first job, really. I didn't really do too much of an active recruiting effort because I was just confused on my career route. So with that, launched Holt Prize Ivy, got all the Ivy Leagues involved from like 1 to 8. So it was really exciting. We got a $10,000 cash prize to give to the winning team to go on to the next round for the chance to win $1 million of seed capital and present at the UN. So there was this one afternoon where I was scrolling through Handshake, and there was this one, it's like, this is all too real. There was this one tab that kind of read something along the lines of most applied for by your colleagues, and as if that weren't anxiety provoking enough, I clicked on it and noticed that students were applying to what seemed to be almost every company in what seemed to be almost every other city except for Philadelphia. And I don't know why, that just really bothered me in some way. It's like, why are people coming to a city, getting their education, 4 years here, most transformative years of your lives, and leaving without giving anything back? And personally, like, I'm just really all about giving back. I think it's just like a core value of mine, and I wanted to do something about it. So with Fulfill, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we teach high school students social entrepreneurship with the goal of growing economic development in resilient cities like Philadelphia. And with this, like, why social entrepreneurship? One, social entrepreneurship is like something that really inspired me in my whole journey. But even more importantly, in theory, entrepreneurship is supposed to be a huge catalyst for economic growth. On top of that, social entrepreneurship, that social impact portion, you are training people to be responsible global citizens, and that's huge. Like, you need to inspire the future to do good things, and like, why not? To date, it's been about a year and a half since launch, and we've been able to bring this coast to coast. We've taught over 1,500 students, creating 500 plus startup ideas that make a difference in their local communities. And exciting news, we just got a Forbes interview not too long ago, so the article should be out somewhat soon, so yeah. I think the biggest challenge was kind of coming into both, having absolutely no idea how to start Holt Prize Ivy, how to start Fulfill, how to start some kind of organization. And I think the fact that we teach social entrepreneurship, like organizing something on pitch competitions with Holt Prize and everything, is very different from starting a company, you know, and like me being the sociology major, humanities college person, I'm like, I'm not from Wharton, I don't know how to do this, I wasn't taking any courses, and I think that was always the biggest challenge. It was honestly just myself and like my own perspective, like I was a limiting factor, and like that kind of, it wasn't what held me back, but at the same time, like really understanding, like, you know, like, I don't care that I'm a sociology major, I'm gonna like do my best to learn everything. So YouTube was basically like my best professor and everything. Watched like whatever I could on like the business model and all that stuff, and funny enough, I teach it now. And yeah, so I think like the biggest challenge is always getting over yourself and your own perception of that, so yeah. One, I haven't really done fundraising in that way. Like, I was able to connect people to the right resources for a Holt Prize at Penn, but for funding for a cash prize, it was just a totally different thing. I knew that because Holt Prize brands really well, it brands itself really well. It's like when you look at their social media, you're like, oh my god, they're larger than life. And so I was like, okay, if we're gonna make this seem like it's larger than life, and even though like I didn't really know too much of what I was doing. I just kept practicing, like, how am I going to say this to people over and over again? I went to career fairs, kind of naively, and, like, went to the people who were recruiting and was like, hey, like, I'm not really, like, a typical person who's going to say this, but I'm doing this pitch competition, and, like, I'm not too sure. Like, being really transparent about that. People like helping other people, depends on the person, but overall, like, that's a very human thing, and it's like we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. So I kind of went to them and was like, oh, is there anyone at your company that does stuff for, like, sponsoring, engagement, college engagement, whatever, and that got us, like, sponsorships from Google, Comcast, whatever, just by doing that and, like, seeing, just, like, tapping into networks. So with that, I've always been really engaged and intrigued by the whole concept of networks. Like, who can you know, who is, like, the right connection? Because I feel like anything can be done. You just gotta find the right person. The biggest thing is that knowing that it's hard up front. Entrepreneurship is the hardest form of business. So to, like, anyone out there, I think, like, you don't even have to have a business degree. But you have to be really willing to work. There's going to be lots of hours and everything, but I think really having that sense of grit and, like, relentlessness, like, what does relentlessness even mean? Like, I think it means having that vision so strong that the work that you put in doesn't even matter. Like, just, like, really believing in it in that sense. So I think just really persevering is the biggest advice, and knowing why you're doing it. People don't really care about what you're doing or even how you're doing it, but it's really about why you're doing it. And that's kind of why early founders, if they have a good story, you're like, oh my god, I want to be part of this in some way. And knowing that core value is really important. So yeah, persevere and know your why. To date, I've hired at least 55 interns. So we've done, like, a whole impact report on this, like, over the past year and a half. And so it's crazy that it's 55, but, like, knowing college students, you need, like, every 3-4 months, like, you get more people and, like, onboarding and everything. I think the biggest thing is this mentorship aspect. And I guess what I mean by that, like, when I think of mentorship, it's not just someone, like, helping out another person. Like, we're helping each other out. We're learning from each other to grow the same vision and mission. So it's like when I break down mentorship, it's like the first part's like leadership. And I think just really caring about your people. It's like this is your tribe. That's, like, a real thing. Just really putting their interests first sometimes. But at the same time also holding the company mission and vision close. But I think also being the second part, I guess, like, a sponge. Like, you're learning from them and they're learning from you, and you need to always remember that you are never going to stop learning, and you have to always be curious, because there's no such thing as a perfect manager, I feel. Even, like, those who seem to be, like, the most perfect ones, I'm sure they still have a lot to develop. So yeah. It's a tough journey, and I guess there's many moments when you feel like quitting, and what are those moments specifically, and how do you get over those obstacles. So sometimes it can feel like every other day, or like, oh great, we got this donor, or oh shoot, the grant is in an hour, what are we gonna do? And it just is this constant roller coaster. And I think how to overcome those challenges is really just remembering the why. So for instance, I think of the students who have gone through the program, who have created, like, gender nonconforming clothing lines, language learning apps teaching cultural competency, or like, simple ingredient treats for dogs with cancer, and you're like, okay, you know what, it's not too bad, we're gonna get over it. And, like, that concept of relentlessness, and, like, you know what, who cares about the work, we're gonna get to this and complete this. And yeah. I think it always comes down to that why. So, like, whoever is the one doing outreach and sending all the emails to who knows who, um, just really kind of trying to find a way to communicate that passion. And I know it's hard within, like a 4 or 5 line email to do that. Finding, I think especially, I think one, if there's any way that you could try to put an effort towards that, that's really important. But two, for whoever you are trying to target for like an ask, I think one, it really depends on the person, but trying to really get to know them um, personally. So start off with personal connections who you think might be helpful, even if it's like, oh, like Professor so and so, like, do you happen to know anyone who's doing this? I'm really passionate about so whatever, and hopefully that professor should be aligned with your interests, because people want to help, but they really follow that why. So demonstrating your passion and tapping into your networks. If it's not the right person, maybe you know someone who's the right person. If I were to tell my freshman self something, like some kind of a piece of advice, I would tell myself to kind of just always follow my gut feeling. Um, the reason why I think people say your gut feeling is always right is because like you are that moral indicator of whether it's right or not. And if you always have that sense of regret of like, oh, I should have done this, then I think when you're able to follow your gut feeling, it's like you are taking full responsibility for yourself, and I think that's very empowering. So I would tell myself and any other freshmen out there like to follow their gut, because I feel like especially at Penn there's a lot of like peer pressure and everything, and just really following what you think is right for yourself, because once you finish college, like no one really cares, honestly. So yeah.